I thought I'd quickly show you the heater that I fixed. These are the suction cups. They're nice and soft, but about every week they come loose and the heater falls down. So I decided to replace these suction cups with magnets. And even though they seem to stick well, they don't last more than a week. So the magnets I glued on um, with the glue that I showed you. These are mini magnets. They cost about $7 a piece, and they're good for aquariums if you're using thinner glass. If you have a thick glass aquarium, you're going to have to get to a better magnet. This is a 300-watt heater I bought off the internet. But anyhow, I just thought I would show you that. The glue I used to glue this together with works fine. Put it in the aquarium, and here it is in the aquarium. As you can see, it's not really unsightly. They're small. And this is a thinner glass aquarium. This is the 40-gallon breeder. And here, let me move this out of the way so you can see it a little better. And this is what it looks like. Basically, this with the magnets instead of suction cups, it works great. So in case you buy one of these and you're having trouble with the suction cups, you can replace it with some cheap magnets off of Amazon. So let's get into the video, and that's enough about the modification on this heater. So this is the second part of this video, and I'm going to read you a letter that was written, or it was a comment basically, but it's a letter. It's over a page and a half long. And this particular hobbyist wrote this, and there's a lot of things inside here that I think were very interesting. When I asked the question of, do you think like 25 gallons per goldfish, you know, these rule of thumbs they have, and koi should be only put in 500 gallons of water per koi. But I said a lot of people don't follow these rules. If you know, one fish per so many gallons of water, or 1 gallon of water, depending if it's a tropical fish, how big's the fish. What about Mbuna tanks that get overcrowded because of the aggressiveness of the particular animals that we keep? So you may have to overcrowd them. So a lot of people said it depends on your filtration, it depends on your husbandry. These people who tell other people you have way too many fish, you know, just people don't feel that. They feel that it all depends on that hobbyist, that individual, what they're doing, how they're doing it. And that's quite true. If you think about it, you think about a saltwater aquarium, okay, and the expense they go through with filtration and protein skimmers and everything else. They got quite a lot of money into an elaborate filtration system. So it's the same with freshwater. How elaborate is your filtration system? You could be using ultraviolet lights, you could be using ozone, you could be using canister filters, you could be using sumps, you could be using socks. What is your husbandry on it? That will all depend on how many animals you have and how safely you can keep them. So anyhow, I'll get into the letter. I was always viewed the recommendation for fish in gallons as a simple guideline for the average user. More importantly was that the limitations come from how well you can keep their environment clean and healthy for the fish. The more fish, the harder it would get. Makes sense. Now, prior to me knowing about this Anoxic filtration, I treated the limit to reasonable amounts of fish in my tank as how much filtration can I afford? How many water changes will I actually do? Now, I like that word actually, because a lot of people will tell you, you should be doing this, but how many do you actually do? Right? Do you only do a water change once a month? Do you only do a water change every 2 months, 3 months? Do you do a water change only every 6 months, once a year? See, what is your, I like the way they said, and it's in capital letters, actually, because not everybody follows the quote water changing guidelines that are set for everybody. Okay, and will the nitrates stay manageable without major cash expenditures for expensive equipment? She probably means the media that they sell out there. A lot of the media they sell does nitrates. Now, in this media, as you notice, or if you see YouTube channels or media, different medias that are out there, you notice they talk about nitrates, but only an Anoxic filtration system takes care of phosphates because it's a specialized bacteria, and Dr. Franco in Italy proved that not only did nitrates go down, but phosphates went down. Remember, phosphates carry an oxygen molecule the same as nitrates, and facultative bacteria can steal that oxygen from phosphates and nitrates. We also know that it's a 7-to-1 ratio, 7 parts nitrates, 1 part phosphates. You will start having an algae problem. Keep your phosphates as low as possible, and you can try to keep your algae problems as low as possible. And that is something that's not advertised or said very much, because people think that nitrates and phosphates are part of a plant food. Well, we used to have tablets back in 50s, 60s, 70s, and they were just full of nitrate and phosphate. And you would put it by your plant, and it would feed your plant. But we've learned a lot since then that nitrates are needed, phosphates are needed, but in smaller quantities than what everybody thought. But it seems like we're still going with that train of thought of large amounts of nitrates and phosphates are needed, and they're not, to have good plant growth. My tanks are proof to that. Okay, let's see. Basically, how much time, money, and effort would be required to keep these fish healthy? And that's very true. So that's why I stayed at or around those recommended numbers. And I believe those recommended numbers probably are on the safe side, since most hobbyists aren't terribly knowledgeable or doubtful about what it takes to maintain a healthy water under the standard fish keeping wisdom. And it says, read those paragraphs without knowing about the Anoxic filtration system. Okay. But after having learned about the Anoxic filtration system from your channel, I now am seeing that those recommendation limitations are unnecessary. That's quite true with pond people, because once they use an Anoxic filtration system, they've kind of overcrowded their ponds. I had my pond, like I said, overcrowded on purpose to show people how well the Anoxic filtration system worked with such big fish and overcrowding. And I think I told you the story about when a professional came in and he looked at my pond and there was a lot of people there. He told people, don't try this. Do not try to do what he is doing with a conventional filtration system. And I bet you there was at least 40 people or more in my yard at the time. And he is a koi judge, and he probably had some of the most expensive koi in the koi club. And he was telling people, don't try this with a conventional filtration system, because that's what people will say. Well, if he can do it, I can do it. I got expensive equipment. Well, I should be able to do it. But he was trying to warn people, don't think you can do it just because you have expensive equipment and you're using the conventional way of doing things. That's what he was saying to them. Let's see. But after, let's see, I started my system 6 months ago, and it matured about 3 months ago. Nitrates have been below 5 parts per million since. The way I see it, the enemy of fish keeping for me are 1, expense. That's everybody. Biological control of water quality, and 3, mechanical control of water appearance. So you want your water to be clean, clear, and things like that. Okay. With the normal method, expense can be very high, as filters and filter mediums aren't exactly cheap. And they're absolutely right. Let's face facts. it seems like today a lot of these, like I'm going to give this for example, like canister filters, uh, they're getting pretty expensive, getting up to the $400 range. I've even seen more. You know, this is all for your plastic canister filters, going up to over $400. So yeah, the equipment is starting to get up there. Lighting is starting to get up there. Everything's starting to get a little more expensive. Even the cost of fish is, of course, more expensive than it was 20 or 30 years ago. Let's see. Filter, yeah, exactly, cheap. And battling biological water quality makes it even more expensive and often involves serious time, energy, commitment of water changes, not to mention cost of water. I think I mentioned this on my channel. For a lot of people in different countries, they don't have the luxury we have in the United States. And I think we in the United States take it for granted a lot that they cannot take for granted when it comes to water, the cost of water. And in some states and some municipal areas, water costs quite a lot. So do we do the water changes like we're supposed to? A lot of people come on and say, oh, I do them, but do they really do them? Because I know on a lot of my tanks, I never did a water change except maybe once every, 6 months or something like that. So that was just how it was. With the Anoxic filter, expense, frankly, isn't that high. The bare bones basic, a bag of kitty litter or oil dry, some laterite or liquid iron, an undergravel filter platform, and a simple air pump. That is enough to make a plenum, with kitty litter iron sandwiched in the substrate. Beyond that, adding a BCB is just a mesh bag or plastic canvas basket. One canister filter along can be enough to hold a BCB if you want. The BCB addition is for more slack in the system. Yeah, it's more of a I would say the same thing. It's more of a safeguard. Now, on my 20, as I show, that's being run 100% off of a BCB basket. There are no air pumps. There are no sponge filters. The tank looks nice and clean. You have 2 tubes coming into your tank. Exit from the canister, enter. That's it. No sponges, no bubblers, no nothing. It's handling 100% of the biological filter. It's a bare bones tank. That's why I showed it in my last video. It's bare bones, yet it is running just fine off of a BCB hidden in a canister in a cabinet, and you're not junking up your tank with all kinds of bubblers, noise. It never has to be cleaned. The BCB can be pulled out, does not have to be cleaned. You can rinse it a little bit, set it off to the side. There's no ringing, no nothing. Change all your filter media, put it back in, put the basket back in, you're ready to go. That's it. It's a lot less work, and cosmetically, it's great looking. That way you have all kinds of choices of what you want to do once the BCB has matured. Let's see. It says, beyond that, adding a BCB is just a mesh bag or plastic canvas on a canister. Let's see, the BCB addition is for more slack in the system. I personally have made small bags that fit in the back of my medium size hang on the back filters and leave enough room for water to pass around them. Works perfectly fine on a tank that has no plenum, which I've been asked a lot. Can I use the bags without a plenum? Well, here's this person telling you. If you don't have a plenum, the bags seem to work perfectly fine. I experimented and can't believe it worked. I've seen people make baskets that basically sit in their tanks. I have too. I've gotten pictures of people making bags and setting them off in their tanks. Works fine, just like it would in a pond setup. Basically, that's what you're doing. Or I've seen people have a bare bones tank and they make a basket and they put like an Amazon sword in it, and they'll put it in a bare bones tank, and they'll put these baskets in the BCB baskets. Basically, you made an Anoxic filter, and the fish you have aren't going to rip anything up, so that's basically what you did. But you just put it in your tank. You didn't make a separate container like a sump. Your tank is the Anoxic filter. The fish are swimming around in the Anoxic filter, just like I did with my aquarium. The Anoxic filtration handles all the nitrates, which means that the biological water control is no longer an issue since the bacteria handle it. It also handles, as we can see, phosphates. That's been proven too. So it's not only a nitrate reducer, it's a phosphate reducer, because we are constantly adding phosphates to our aquarium. As you saw in my video about feeding the goldfish, we're constantly adding this into our aquariums all the time. That little bit that's in there, the plants can grab because you're constantly adding it in there. But we want to take out any excess, because if it keeps building up where the plants don't use enough of it, you're going to start having algae problems. And that's what we don't want. The only remaining enemy is mechanical filtration, they write, which can be handled easily in a number of ways if it's a problem. But I don't even bother that much about it in my tanks. Water is crystal clear unless I stir up the bottom. So I just pop in a power head with filter floss attached, stir it up, and it cleans up once a week. Not really even necessary, since the stuff sits on the bottom and turns to harmless mum anyway. Well, basically what she's doing is, for some old timers, they had a filter called a diatom filter. And they were very popular. And then you put this diatom, put the powder in it, stir up your tank real good, and the diatom filter would clean everything down to like 1 micron and polish the water, you know. But they really don't make those anymore. I don't think they were worth the time and trouble to a lot of hobbyists to even do it. And I think they went out of favor, diatom filters. Nitrates are below 5 parts per million on all 3 of my tanks. I have a 10-gallon guppy tank with 30 fish. I have a 30-gallon guppy with 60 fish. And I have a 55-gallon goldfish with 4 goldfish. I don't even change the water anymore. Well, that's the same as me. Like on my pond, as heavily stocked as it was, I only change the water twice a year. Once in spring, once in fall, to give the koi fresh water and the goldfish so they can make it through the winter, and then take that water out, give them fresh water again. That's it, twice a year. I added water, of course, for evaporation. And a lot of my fish tanks, yeah, I didn't change the water all that much. I added water, but changing water, no, I didn't really change water, because you're working and you don't have a lot of time. Let's be faced. There's going to be people out there who are going to insist that you do your husbandry right. Well, with the right filtration system, you can kind of get by with skimping. Okay, with the right filtration system. Without it, skimping could mean problems. It could mean a crash. It could mean too many nitrates, too many phosphates building up, too many problems. With the right filtration system, yeah, you can get a little lazy. It does give you a lot of leeway, as they have said. They don't even change water anymore. I just top it off. I did the same thing. Okay, I'm guilty of that sin also. Only have to clean algae off the glass occasionally. For perspective, prior to Anoxic filtration, I was battling nitrates of a minimum of 40 parts per million once a week, and sometimes 80 parts per million in my goldfish tank, with doing a 30% water change once a week. So using conventional filtration system, this individual was battling in their goldfish tank 80 parts per million of nitrates, even after doing a 30% water change every single week. So you see, they became a slave to the whole system. And the Anoxic filtration system solved that problem. Anoxic filtration makes it possible, And I would imagine that I could push the number of fish in my tank up with no problems. That's why ponds got overcrowded. They use an Anoxic filtration system, and they would start pushing their limitations. I did it. But I did it to demonstrate to people that here's how powerful this filtration system is. It's scary powerful. It does a lot more than what you think. Once it's matured, you'll be surprised. Just like my 20-gallon goldfish tank. You'll be surprised how powerful it is and that it can handle everything. I mean, I think that's great, where I can run a 20-gallon tank with healthy goldfish, and I don't have to worry about bubblers. I don't have to worry about sponges. I don't have to worry about a substrate. I don't have to worry about any of that. And I can keep nice. And be honest with you, do I think I could put more fish in that tank? Absolutely. But I have a male and female, so no, I'm not going to do. But could I? Yeah, I could probably double that. But then I'd have more people complaining, your tank's way overcrowded. And I don't need that on my station. Plus, I don't need to be showing people a bad example, because if they don't do it my way and they do it another way and they do the same thing, they can wind up with problems with their goldfish. Let's see. As long as bacteria have the room to populate, they'll grow in relative harmony with the amount of food available. And that's true. If you have the ability, the available food stuff, and you have like a BCB basket or a plenum has a lot, your whole bottom is a filter. You have a lot of substrate, a lot of room to grow bacteria. So then if available food stuff does, that will change your bacteria load. If the food stuff goes down, available food stuff for the bacteria will go down. It will change as you change, as you add in a fish. That's why a lot of times, because these are heterotrophs, okay, they can multiply faster. And therefore you may add a new fish and you'll have no problems of ammonia problems and stuff like that, because heterotrophs can, once they're settled in, can multiply very, very quickly to handle the available food stuff, if you have the available space for the bacteria. Let's see, I've been able to do it with even small bag in my hang on the back filter. So I know I can be done on a small scale. Let's see, did I forget it? Adding a BCB for future expansion is possible and easy. They say, okay, they know they've done it, even a small bag on a hang on the back filter. So they know it can be done. I don't get excited about things very often, but Anoxic filtration has changed my hobby. I now can enjoy my fish without feeling like it's having a second job to maintain them. 30 plus years of fish keeping. So this is not an inexperienced individual. They've been keeping fish a lot longer than a lot of these YouTube channels. People who have a YouTube channel have been keeping fish 30 plus years. And unfortunately, it takes this long to get this point, to get to this point. More people need to know about it, because we now have better understanding of the science of things. I thought I would read that because sometimes people don't read comments or nothing, but a 30-year experienced veteran, like I said, some people that I know, I won't mention their names, but I can mention it. One guy has a channel. He's been doing it 15 years. Another guy about 15 years or 5 years or 6 years. See, they already have channels. There's a lot to learn in this hobby. And here's a person with 30 years experience. And they're even admitting that, hey, even with my experience, I didn't want to become a slave. And that was one thing that I noticed, that I have not become a slave to my aquariums. Do I need to do the water changes once a week like I do? No, I know that. I do them because I have the time now. Where when I was working, no. Basically, I had time to feed the fish and I had time to add water. I didn't have time to constantly do water changes because my weekends were precious. You're getting off finally, and that's the only time you can do a water change, and you're doing other things. So water changes didn't go on top of the list. Yet, fish lived for years and years and years without any problems, with the tank doing just well. Like my 90, like the 20, they're doing good. The goldfish aquarium, as I show you, just use some logic on feeding them and stuff like that, and you're going to be very, very successful using a plenum or Anoxic filtration system. And I've always admitted the truth. Was I that successful with goldfish? No, because I followed the books. I have thousands of books, thousands of books. I probably have every fish, 40,000 different, there's 40,000 different species of fish out there. I probably have a picture of every single fish that man knows in my books, okay? So, even though you're well knowledge, even though you may have thousands of books that you read or have read or have referred to, things have changed. And I think that the Anoxic filtration has been a game changer on how we think about how we can load our tanks up. Most people, like some people that I know who use the system, have kind of overdone their tanks with fish. But then on the other hand, everything's doing fine. So they don't think twice about it. Than somebody who could be using a conventional filtration system saying, you have too many fish. Well, you forget I'm using an Anoxic filtration system, not a conventional. Anoxic, they're a little different. They handle the insalts a little different that are coming into our aquarium than a conventional system. They don't clog like a conventional system. So that gives you an advantage. When something doesn't clog up, when something doesn't have to build up a polymeric adhesive to it, that can also get sticky and start clogging up. When something doesn't have to do that, you do not have to worry that you are going to have less of something 6, 7 months, a year, 2 years down the road. You're going to still have the same amount as you did when you started. You're not going to lose anything as time goes on. So anyhow, I thought I'd read that to you. I thought it was very interesting. I sometimes get some interesting comments and stuff. Sometimes I don't. But anytime, I thought that would be interesting, the comment that was made, because it does cover a lot of what people think. It's a very broad umbrella. And I want to thank the individual for taking so much time of writing something like this, and a 30-year experienced veteran to this hobby. And I just want to say thank you very much for watching. Subscribe to my channel. And until next time, this is Dr. Novak.